Last Thursday, a very unfortunate incident happened at the Midland Savings and Loans, Limited, where a woman was assaulted. A lot of civil society organizations, the police, the president himself have condemned it, following which there have been an action triggered by the Minister for Interior, directing the IGP to make sure that Lance Corporal Amano has been arrested. We understand that some lawyers have stepped into it. But this morning, we want to take a look at the many calls for reforms in the police services and maybe, if you will, the psychological bit of it and the independent commission. I've been joined here by three resource persons. Susan Ayite is the acting executive director of FIDA Ghana. She's also a human rights lawyer, member of the civil society movement. Susan, good morning. Thank you very much for coming. Grateful. Adolf Bekwing is with the Methodist University of Ghana and College of Ghana. He is a clinical psychologist. Adolf, thank you very much for your time. And also Eunice Rahel Agbanyeji is with Jesse Star Ghana. Thank you very much. Grateful for your time. Let's begin first of all with you, Susan, because you're a human rights lawyer. What would be the overview, if you will, from FIDA's standpoint? What happened?
Right, I'm here wearing the cap for the net rights as well as the civil society organization. So I'm speaking on behalf.
Net right.
So, yes,
absolutely,
for net rights,
that's right.
Even though I belong, to FIDA.
Okay.
Well, basically, you find out that the Police Service Act 1970 tells us what the police force is mandated to do. So apart from maintaining law and order, they're supposed to ensure also that there's also public safety of citizens in this country.
Okay.
Then we have various, international human rights laws that we as a country have ratified, and which enjoins us to actually maintain human dignity and the right to life. And so from what we have seen so far, we then understand that we have a big issue with the police service, which is very instrumental when it comes to enforcing human rights of its citizens, and particularly, of women, because a woman's experience of the law will actually determine how far she will go to claim her rights. And when she sees or hears from the media such reports, it then impedes or hinders other women's rights or other women to actually claim their rights, because they learn from these experiences and they think that, listen, if I should go to the police and this is what I'm going to experience, I might as well just suffer in silence. And this is linked to the rule of law and democracy in this country. Now in this era of our democracy and the rule of law, we don't need a police service that will brutalize, people. We need friendly policemen, friendly policewomen. And I must say that this is not just to castigate the police service as a whole. I believe that the problems are systemic. And we also, even the politicians, have to take collective responsibility. We are looking at the type of people that we have in the police
We'll talk about the details. Let me go to Eunice and ask her. So gender, inclusion, and all of that. From what you said at Star Ghana, we've talked about these issues in the past, but nothing seems to be changing. Is there any hope?
Well, I think that, let me say that we have made a lot of progress as a country in achieving gender equality and social inclusion. However, we still have a long way to go.
How far do we have to travel to reach that?
Very far, because we are looking at issues that are systemic grounded. So we have legal deficiencies, we have institutional deficiencies, and we also have sociocultural deficiencies. And this undermine the progress we are making towards gender equality and social inclusion. And as a country, we have diverse representation. There are those whose voices are loud, others who are not and are not at the table. There are those that are benefiting much more from the natural resources than others. These are manifestations of exclusion. By virtue of your ability or disability, you can be excluded. By virtue of where you are located, you can be excluded. Even by virtue of your gender, being a female or being a male is an indicator that can be exploited. So because there are systemic barriers to gender equality, we need to understand what are the indicators
in this
that
particular
perpetuate
video where Corporal Amano beats the woman up, umbrella slaps and everything else, you could tell a powerless lady who was being beaten along with a grandchild by a man clothed, fed by all of us, our taxes, with the crown of the state.
Exactly.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, exactly so. And I'm sure that if there was another lady that went to the bank in a V8 and even entered late, I'm sure that the response from the policeman towards this lady would be different, because the policeman could say, by just seeing the person, that this is somebody,
this is a big woman.
This is a big woman. So the policeman saw that this is a poor woman. And you know, in this case, we are talking about a vulnerable woman and a vulnerable child, because there are two persons involved. And clearly, because this lady seemed poor and seemed unprotected, the policeman took advantage of her situation to exploit her. But we are also saying that there are different people that can intervene at different points. So we don't want to focus on only the police man.
We'll talk about interventions shortly. Let me come to Adolf and talk about the psychological bit of it. I remember that the Archer's report, just started reports, 1999, spoke about some reforms that we need to give the police service. Subsequently, we have had conversations about giving the police service some reforms. From where you sit, I know that in other jurisdictions, as you may be aware, the act or art of negotiation, where an officer of the law tries to negotiate with whoever is, whether in a bad light of the law or in the right light of the law, the art of negotiation, it was missing in this particular incident. Do you think, from a psychological perspective, that our police training is doing enough?
Thank you very much. I think the police is training, but for your training to be effective, it depends on whether the trainee is trainable. If the trainee is not trainable, you'll be training.
What's the essence of the sifting process? You apply, you do tests and everything else?
Then, if you do not have trainable recruits, then we must question the sifting process.
Okay.
And we know the system is able to sift through very good candidates who are doing so well in the service. It is also unable to just take out those who cannot do well because of other influences beyond the control of the police.
For example?
For example, we hear that now there are protocols. We've been hearing protocol lists, some politicians going on air saying that they have quotas. Now, if a politician has a quota, how dare you use very effective, screening system to get that person out? It's not going to happen. So yes, we are here talking about the police, but the problem is not only with the police. It's the overbearing influence of politicians in many facets of our life.
The hidden hand.
That must be left to professionals, given the space to do their work. We're not getting that in this country.
Okay.
And I think that moving forward, we all as citizens must begin to speak up.
So let me get you. If that situation still persists, no matter the level of training that's given to them, we will still come back to having officers battering people.
Yes, because, I mean, just let's take a very simple example, instance. You finish SHS. If you chose to go into just to learn a trade, how long does it take you to pass out? It takes you not less than 2 years.
Yes.
Now, the recruits go to the police training. For how long? 6 months?
Well, but the Archer's report says that it should be reviewed from 6 months to nine months.
Okay.
That has not been done.
Okay.
It's been 20 years since.
It's been 20 years. So, within a period of, let's say, 6 months, this person is supposed to understand human rights law, understand child psychology, understand everything about how to protect victims, how to negotiate within 6 months. Gun control, how to handle guns within 6 months. How is that possible? And so we have a system that is deficient, like my sister said, which we all must beyond what has happened. This is just giving us opportunity to really take a very deep peek into the system and come out with what must be done.
Susan, yesterday, a colleague of mine at 3FM had a conversation with DCOP, retired Akrofi. He's a police trainer. He says that at no point is the temperament of the trainee brought to the fore. And in fact, he does, as far as he is concerned, they don't have a way to check the temperament. But as Mr. Adolph has said, we give them guns, fully loaded guns. And in this particular video, the man beats the woman to the extent that the gun even fell off. A day after, we heard of somebody who had just shot into a funeral crowd and left the safety or off, so then he killed the driver. As a human rights lawyer, knowing that temperament is not checked, knowing that training is inadequate, knowing that they are under-resourced, must we feel safe?
Okay, just to correct it, I did human rights law, but I can't call myself a human rights lawyer. Yes, I did human rights law, yes. Well, I'll say this. It's difficult to check temperament, fine, but if we allow the system to work, if they do evaluations, if they do appraisals now and again, definitely you will find out, it will come out that there are some people who don't have the quality, you know, of being a policeman or a policewoman. But the system is not working because, just as adults succinctly put it, if a politician brings in a couple of recruits, how dare you get rid of them?
Where do we stop?
So it must stop with the politicians must stop interfering in the work of the police service. And then the police service must also take control, because listen, these reports have come up since 1951. Over 10 reports have been churned out, and nothing has been done about the recommendations.
Now you're calling for an independent commission, external commission. Is that a way to go? The security experts say anybody who calls for that doesn't perhaps understand the security makeup. We have PIPs. Why do we need an external commission?
Well, I believe you need an external commission for independence, accountability, and then also there's always this perception out there from the public that the police tend to cover up, for their colleagues. So even though the experts might say this, I think that for the process to be transparent, it's important that they allow external people to come. After all, you have, committees and commissions of inquiry. They are headed by, experts who are outside the police service. Justice Archer was a Chief Justice. Okujoto was also on the May Disaster Committee. He also has a report. He's come up with all these things. And the reports that he churned out were very, good reports. And so I believe that they should allow external,
let me pick your
even we as citizens should be able to assess the police.
And then on that score, Eunice, let me pick your thoughts on this one. There are instances where you pick up your phone to want to video the police if they are misbehaving, or even journalists have been brutalized by the police in the line of duty. Someone says the IGP should make a fiat that would allow citizens to film the police and send to a designated number if they think that they are misbehaving. What do you say about that? Do you support that?
Well, let me add to Susan's point.
We have very little time.
We are looking at trust, that the public should trust that the police will protect them, the police will ensure that they are safe. When a policeman misconducts him or herself, and you allow the police system to investigate that, and we have had many cases where such investigation, the outcomes are not shared. So the public does not even get to know the outcome and the punishment that is meted out to the police. So we think that an independent commission, and it does not necessarily have to exclude the police, but to bring in other persons, other associations, so that there's that independence, that we can trust that investigation into police misconduct are well
dealt with and finally brought to it. Mr. McQueen, do you have the final word? Now, the Archer's report says that we must get to a point where security organizations will take over from the police, so the police will be disengaged from bank duties. This was said 20 years ago. We have not seen that. Now there's shock, there's alarm, there's surprise, there's disappointment. Where do we go from here?
Well, we need to approach the whole situation moving forward with calm heads. We should transcend the shock and ask the very important questions so that we don't have a repeat of it. I think that, as we have said, the recruitment process, we must understand security generally and democratize security. Now we talk about human security.
Right.
So we need to demystify it.
Okay.
The security people who said the citizenry doesn't have a right to question, to ask questions, are also forgetting about the critical stakeholders.
Right.
On whom are you a security expert over? Over the citizens.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so we need to ask, and the police must come from trauma-informed position.
Okay.
It is not difficult to determine the temperament of police officers if you have the training.
Right.
Most grateful. Thank you very much. Eunice Rahel Agbenyechi, she's with Star Ghana, the Gender and Social Inclusion Program. Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Adok Ewuku Bekwing is with the Midland University College Ghana, and he's a clinical psychologist as well as, thank you very much, Susan Aite, Acting Executive Director of FIDA, and also with Network. Thank you very much. We're grateful for your time this morning. And that's how the cookie crumbles today, Tuesday. Welcome, and thank you very much. Join us tomorrow for another rollicking episode of New Day. Have a blast.